Okay, welcome to Sorare Strategy, and this set of videos I'm really excited about. This is a player evaluation tool that I've created, an algorithm, if you will. Although I'm certainly not a data scientist, it's a simple algorithm, but it's something that I've been working on over the last few months, testing out across a range of players, and using a ton of data points, and then cutting a bunch of them out, and really trying to land on something that I felt would work to really be helpful for myself and that I want to share with you. So let's dive right in. This video here kind of starts to introduce it and the first, the F in this score, and then future videos, you watch them kind of concurrently and you'll understand, you'll learn the next ones. So why did I do this? So first off, I want to create a player evaluation tool, a score, if you will, that could help me make a quick decision if I was in an auction on buying a player, if I got offered a price to sell a player at, if I'm making a trade. And I felt like what was currently there, the current Sorare, there's a number of data points you can look at. You can look at their form, you can look at the price they're selling at, you can look at historical prices and things like that. But nothing really brought it all together into one simple score for me to calculate. And of course, some of those things are really subject to fluctuations, like form, like pricing, and stuff like that. So I based this on three key criteria. So first off, it had to be credibly sourced. I'm definitely not an expert at all, and in fact I rely on smarter and more robust data points, and I pull from those to make the conclusions that I make. So throughout, if you subscribe to this channel, you'll see, like, I don't make a ton of sort of subjective claims or my own kind of gut or opinions on players. I sort of let the data tell me the answers and present them back to you. So you'll see through this, each of the data points that I've pulled from, they come from fairly reputable places, and you'll see that soon enough. Unitary comparability sounds a bit complex. What it really means is that a way to compare apples to oranges. So bringing all of these data points down to single units, scoring them either a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, something like that, as opposed to somehow trying to compare, say, a percentage versus a dollar amount versus a score. Like, these types of things are very difficult to compare and to put together. So instead, I take those and I assign a score, usually up between 1 and 6. You're going to see this going forward. And then just simple application. For me, I mentioned this, that I had a number of data points, and then I kind of pulled a bunch of them out. I wanted something that, first off, I could understand intuitively. And I think that sometimes when we put in too much data, we lose sight of what we're actually after. I want to eliminate any kind of double counting, or as much as I could. And I wanted to be able to quickly reference it. I wanted that if I was in an auction or something, I could just quickly kind of calculate it in my head. I kind of knew what the key numbers I was seeking, and then make a quick decision. So let's dive in. So the first one here is the F in FAS plus. And that's form. So form, I think we understand what form is. It affects player value in a number of ways. You probably know this, but obviously it affects their playing time. The player that's playing well will get more playing time. That increases their value. That increases their utility in the weekly games. And it also increases, obviously, the market value in the real world. So a player that's playing really well might get called up to their national team. They might spark some interest from some of the bigger clubs. Just generally speaking, their value is going to increase. And of course, it increases the market value within Sorare. So a player in good form is going to score more in the week to week, which allows you to enter game week tournaments and win cards and Ethereum, things like that. And then generally just their price will probably start to rise as well. It's not perfect. There are some challenges to it. I'm going to use Sorare's form calculation. There are other websites out there that calculate form, but I thought, well, this is a Sorare application. It would be weird to pull in data from a different platform. So we use Sorare's form calculation, but I mean, there are some flaws to it. So, if we look at, say, like Joel Waterman here, if we only looked at this, he looks like an extremely consistent player, somebody you could plug into your lineup each and every week and get a pretty decent output. But of course, you have to compare it to the percentage of of games played over that time. And if we actually look at it visually, we see that, oh wow, there's actually a ton of DNPs. And yes, he's played a number of games of late, so certainly someone to pay attention to. But just looking at this probably doesn't tell the whole story. Likewise, if we look at the transfer market, and this guy's kind of come up top in terms of best value at this moment, and looks pretty good, pretty decent price for that kind of score, and he's been playing a ton. So unlike Joel, he actually is playing quite a bit. But if we scroll down and see, and this is kind of this discrepancy compared to Joel, where actually he drops off when you get into the 15 and 40 games. And we kind of see that here. He's on a bit of a run right now, potentially not sustainable. Maybe his actual baseline is more somewhere down this area. So that's pretty normal. That we get that, but it does indicate that sometimes just a simple form number, it's going to fluctuate. Plugging in a score like 66 when we feel that maybe it's not sustainable, or even going into a deeper range like 40 or something, and plugging in 51 for Joel when we realize that actually he's only played maybe a dozen games in those 40. What it recognizes is that we really need the context of exactly how much they've played. And then there's other external factors. So, rookies or younger players tend to have more volatility in their form. They just tend to skew a bit lower. They tend to come off the bench, or they get subbed out quicker. They make mistakes, of course. The team that they're on, how well that team's playing, or the opponent that they're playing, and things like that, that of course is going to factor into form. And then of course injuries. So if a player's injured, misses an extended period of time, obviously they get DNPs through that stretch, and that can dramatically affect the form. A player may look like they have good form, but they've actually only played a handful of games and been out for an extended period. So, that's in a nutshell where form sits with me. And so let's actually look at how I applied it. So I've hidden all the other columns and stuff because we're going to build this out. But here are just a number of players I've been looking at and plugging in to kind of compare. And what I've landed on is I'm looking at the L15 score. And the reason I chose, it's probably obvious why I didn't choose to score L5, because it's really just such a small window. It would be far too volatile to runs and things like that. 40 was an option, is something I thought about. But you see a lot of these NAs, especially if you're looking at young guys, a lot of them haven't even played 40 games yet. There can be a lot of skew. You have a lot of this kind of fluctuation of playing time. I mean, this really pulls in injured periods a lot more. So I just felt that was maybe a little too problematic, and that we would have scores like this where we can't even use it to compare. So L15, you can pretty much be confident that everybody, most players have about a 15 game stretch that you can compare. And you'll see up here, what this means is that if their L15 score is 50 plus, I give them 2 points. If it's in the 40s, they get 1, and if it's under 40, they get 0. And so you can see down here, and then they basically get their number. And then it's also critically important that we compare that to the percentage of play that they're in. They can't just have play in one of those 15 games, score 75 or something, and then get a ton of points from in my algorithm. So, this really kind of also, we reward those that actually played a significant amount of those 15 games. So they get 2 points if they played 75% of those games plus, 1 between 50 and 75, and 0 at 50%. I will say that form is maybe my lowest value of the three, of the A and the S, which you're going to see soon enough. So the total number of points you can get, the best would be 4 points. And of course the lowest is 0. And you'll see how that compares to the other two, because I do think that form is a bit of a short-term reflection, and a lot of what the valuation that I want to weigh a little more heavily on is a little longer term. Again, you'll see this when this all comes together. So that's it in a nutshell. The first part, I encourage you to tune into the second one. There will be a link below and on the screen. And we'll learn about what the A is, and then of course the S, and then we're going to put it all together, look at different players, and kind of come back to it. Thanks for watching. Talk soon.